Another film I watched this week was Game of Death, Bruce Lee's 1978 posthumous film, which is loosely based on footage he had shot before his death 5 years earlier. The film, as presented, is largely directed by Robert Clouse, who had also directed his most successful film, Enter the Dragon. And there's the story of Billy Lowe, a Hong Kong movie star with a lot of parallels to the life of Bruce Lee, but who is being influenced by a syndicate protection racket, intending to take him under his wing and take a huge chunk of his income from the various productions in which he's involved, and also those of his girlfriend, played by Colleen Camp. So, amidst various threats, he's able to fake his own death and reinvent himself as a mysterious avenger, taking on the mafioso organization from the inside. It also means that the actor playing Billy Lowe can have a lot of bandages on his face or big sunglasses to disguise the fact that it's not Bruce Lee. And in fact, we finally, apart from some intercut material from previous films, see Lee in action at the film's climax, with the three levels of the villain's base represented by footage from the previous Game of Death production, where his character was going to fight through various levels of a pagoda in search of a fabulous treasure. So we get those three final sequences. It's a weird film because it had the starting point of those three fight sequences, and then has a completely new, completely original story built around them, which has no resemblance to what Lee had intended Game of Death to be. And as a result, it's not great. There's a very clumsy attempt at incorporating past footage from previous movies to the extent of recreating production of The Way of the Dragon or Fist of Fury, but with the Lowe character instead of Bruce Lee. And it really only comes together in those climactic fight sequences, even though it's never properly resolved. It is surprising that the film has the star power that it has, almost to make up for the fact that it doesn't have Bruce Lee in it. We have Gig Young in a supporting role. It would also be his final film. As Billy Lowe's agent / manager. We have Dean Jagger as the villain. Camp, of course, will go on to become a minor star of the 80s and also a successful producer. But it's really hard to recommend, given the jumbled nature of the production, the very rough, very cliched fight against the mafia plot, combined with that extra footage, which is they work backwards so that they can justify the character wearing that iconic yellow and black jumpsuit earlier in the movie, and it never really fits together. It never really makes sense. Everything has to be reverse engineered from something from which it bears almost no resemblance, and the result is something that's pretty unsatisfactory. It's also startling by how abruptly the film ends, as though the filmmakers had simply decided, well, that's it, we've used all the footage we have, we've resolved the plot, there's nothing else to do. What is startling is that it has a score by John Barry, with a really terrific theme song and a very James Bond style opening title, which I really liked and really set me up for an enjoyable film. And it was then so disappointing that it was such a hodgepodge and such a mongrel production. So it's some distance below his previous work. I think the best of his films is either Fist of Fury or Way of the Dragon. This is certainly not among those. And although I might be interested in seeing some of the assemblies of the Game of Death footage, which are more in tune with what Lee had intended, this is certainly not a Bruce Lee picture in anything other than reusing existing footage.